All right, y'all. What is going on? This is our first NFL slate breakdown. We have myself, Andrew, and then we have Luke on here as well.
Yeah.
Luke is the newest member of Parlay Ole Bets. Luke, let's take a few seconds really quick if you want to introduce yourself and kind of explain your background in gambling, and then we're going to hop right into it. We have a big slate to break down, starting with the Broncos versus the Raiders. So, Luke, take it away real quick, man.
Yeah, definitely happy to be here. Happy to be contributing in the Discord for a few weeks now. It's been a great ride getting acclimated to that. Kind of a little bit about my betting style. We have about a 7% ROI all time, up about 300 units, a little bit over that now, which is awesome and great. A lot of the time, I like to focus on about 5 spreads per Sunday. That's good for any type of contest you're in, stuff like that, as well as player props, things along those lines. We love our basketball, but hey, I'm a football guy at heart, so NFL is my thing.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, basketball is great. Honestly, I love basketball simply for the injuries and the opportunities. Like you can just in basketball, volume is king. And if you just look at who's starting or who might be injured, like for example, I mean, the bet did not hit yesterday, but Kelly Oubre points and rebounds is generally a good play when Joel Embiid is out. Took that before Joel Embiid went out. It did not matter personally. We still lost that one, but that is a good example. Or Russ Westbrook. If you kind of read the tea leaves of what was going on with the Kings, Russ was going to be in line for a big day, and we hit a really nice triple-double parlay. Not the same thing in the NFL. What I have found is there are a lot of opportunities and injuries, but oftentimes what you see with certain offenses is kind of the really going hard into the main person, right? So like on the Rams, you're going really heavy into Puka. You're not going to see a lot of the lower guys getting a lot of route share and whatnot. But we're going to break all that down for you today. Starting with the Broncos versus the Raiders. Just as an FYI, the code NFL will get you 50% off at Parlay Ole Bets. That'll put it at $12.50 a month for your first month. We're off to a good start this month. Last month was a little brutal. Personally, I'm going through a horrible stretch in the NFL, but thank God NBA has been absolutely crushing it for me so far. We're going to kick it off with Raiders versus Broncos. Luke, I don't know if you knew this, but I am a huge Broncos fan. So even if I did not expect them to win this game, I would be incredibly biased going into this game. I see zero chance for the Raiders to win this game.
I'm totally with you on that. Totally with you on that. And yeah, I'll just get right into it. I've already fired on the Broncos -8.5 tonight. So loving the Broncos in this spot. The Raiders coming off of a full overtime game. They played every minute of that overtime down to the last 2-point attempt against the Jaguars. Very tight game, entertaining game. But yes, traveling the Mile High on a short week. I mean, this is just looking like a spot where the Raiders are just going to get crushed here. They probably have nothing left in the tank against a good Broncos team. Both sides of the ball in the trenches, offensive, defensive line, phenomenal teams. Hopefully, Bo Nix can pick it up a little bit. That's really my only worry here. But yeah, I loving the Broncos tonight.
Yeah, I have some concerns generally with the Broncos offense and the fact that it doesn't feel like they get going until quarter 3, quarter 4. It would be awesome to kind of get a big lead early on and just kind of sit on the ball and win that game. This is at home. Broncos at home. When they are winning is a phenomenal environment. They are undefeated at home this year. They were 6-2 last year. They were 5-4 the year before that. At home, the Broncos are absolutely amazing. A couple things I want to call out for this game. Patrick Surtain is out. So when you think about this Broncos pass defense, you lose what I would consider to be either the best or one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL, a guy who can absolutely shut down one side of the field. You move Riley Moss over into that number 1 spot. Say what you want about Riley Moss. If you can't see my hat, I'm a huge Iowa fan. I love Riley Moss. I think he is a fantastic corner, but he is not Pat Surtain. So they're missing him. What we saw prior to Patrick Surtain being out is Jahdae Barron, their first round pick, really playing in that slot role. But last week we saw him play outside predominantly. So that opens up a little bit of the slot spot for the Raiders. And as you mentioned, I don't see a way for this Raiders team to really get anything going, especially on the ground. I think Ashton Genty's in for a really tough day, and I think we could see a very negative game script for the Raiders, which will lead to a lot of passing. I have a few spots I want to target here, but is there anything you want to target outside of the spread for the Raiders Broncos?
Yeah, so I have Raiders Broncos -8.5. That's 3.5 unit play for me. That's pretty standard for my 5 unit plays. or 5 spread plays per week, not unit. Uh, so if you need to scale down on that, whatever you got to do. I also in this game have J.K. Dobbins over 70.5 rushing yards at plus 106. So I have that for 1.9 units. I think that the Broncos are going to come out, run it right down the Raiders' throat. Ball control football in the trenches. This is going to be the biggest mismatch you see all week. And then I've also used sleeper promo for Cortland Sutton to get 44 receiving yards, and I've paired that with something we'll talk about a little later.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm personally not a huge fan of kind of those low lines, but I think for Cortland, I think that was a plus money line at a lower rate. And Cortland's just fantastic at hitting that like 40-yard mark. It doesn't matter what the game script is, it doesn't matter who they're playing. Somehow, some way, Cortland's getting 40 plus yards almost every single game. So that's almost a lock there. I feel pretty good about that. Personally, I love RJ Harvey. I got him at over an 11.5 receiving yards. I'm honestly concerned that maybe I'm missing something with how low that line is. Marvin Mims was ruled out with a concussion. And while you naturally would expect another receiver to step up, a la Pat Bryant, and we did see him get a lot of routes this past game and a higher route share. And I do have some coin on Pat Bryant too. What we also saw was RJ Harvey being used even more so in that Joker role. Had 5 targets, had a big game last week, only 11.5 receiving yards. I think that should be an easy clear. And I also like Trey Tucker here. And there's a lot of hype around some of the rookies, Jack Beck and Dante Thornton. They've mentioned them several times in Coach Speak. And check out his Coach Speak Index if you haven't. He's fantastic. They've mentioned him several times, right? So Jack and Dante. I just don't see it in this spot. I think Gino is going to be hitting Trey pretty hard with Jacoby Meyer being out. I do believe the Broncos are going to game plan specifically to stop Brock Bowers, similar to what they did against CeeDee Lamb, where they were bracketing him over top. I think we're going to see the same thing with Brock Bowers. I think we're going to see Trey Tucker get some receptions here as well. I have a few other things I want to cover, but I think that's probably enough for a game that probably is going to be a blowout on a Thursday night football game. So anything else you want to cover on, Luke, before we head into the next game?
No, I'm good to go. I have called out everything I want. I think, everyone knows where I stand on this game.
I love it. All right, we're going into the Falcons versus the Colts. This is a 6.5 point spread for the Colts. It is in Berlin. So while the Colts are technically the home field team, they do not have really that home field advantage. We've seen Europe be kind of interesting. Honestly, for the most part, relatively sloppy games is what we've seen to this point. I think what we can rely on generally is a rushing attack. And I really like Jonathan Taylor in this spot. The Falcons defense started off so strong to begin the year, and they've really fallen off the wagon the last couple of weeks. Jonathan Taylor coming off a very poor performance. I already took his rushing yards in the Discord. I love it. That is my big play for this game. I have another play as well, but first off, anything you think about that you want to touch on for this game?
Overall, I have nothing down on this game yet. Full transparency. It's honestly really tight in the trenches. Falcons are a few plays away from being a 5-3 team. I think they're a lot better than their record says. I don't trust Penix, though. The reason I have not fired on the 6.5 is I don't trust Penix at all. So if you had me lean one way, I would lean to the 6.5, getting the 6.5. I've looked at Drake London's under in receiving yards. Obviously, the huge trade with Sauce Gardner coming over. Seems like he's going to be active, one of the best corners in the NFL. Drake London coming off a huge game. And like what you said is normally a sloppy game overseas. I don't mind the under of 70.5 receiving yards. That might be something I fire on. But no, that's about all I have to highlight with this game.
It's interesting you say that as well. I also had a note down for Drake London unders. It's one of those plays where I'm probably going to say, I love it. I'm not taking it because it's Drake London and he's probably going to get 8 targets regardless, but it is Sauce Gardner. I'm probably going to stay away, but I do love that look as well. I even had Darnell Mooney as a sneaky play. Like you're going away from Sauce. His receptions line's only 2.5. Daniel Jones under 32.5 passing attempts is also something I was considering, just expecting this to be, I expect it to be a very heavy run script for the Colts. And then also looking at like a Tice Algier under and rushing yards, although some talk came out about coaches wanting to get him involved. But when it's a negative game script, typically he's not getting a lot of rushing attempts. So we're going to jump into a game where pre-show, you don't have a lot to talk about this, so I might be talking quite a bit here. But the Browns versus the Jets, and the Browns and Jets, what a fire sale for the New York Jets. this week. I felt like every 4 minutes I was seeing a new trade. The Jets just sending off someone. We have Sauce going. We have Quinnen Williams going. Who else was? I feel like there's several other people that were traded away from this Jets team, but they are a new program there, and that defense is not going to be very strong. A couple things I typically like to do. So with the Jets and targeting the Jets, I love targeting slot receivers going up against the Jets. They have been generally pretty bad against defending slot receivers. When you look at the Browns, though, who the hell is playing the slot? Isaiah Bond was injured, has not been practicing this week, so maybe Jamari Thrash, but I do not like this passing attack under Dylan Gabriel. Honestly, I don't like the passing attack in general, and you can see how bad it is when you look at how Joe Flacco is doing over in Cincy now. But the two things I really like is Quinshon Judkins over rushing yards. I like Breece Hall under rushing yards as well. The Browns' rushing defense has been absolutely phenomenal to this point. And the Jets' rushing defense has also been strong, but part of their strength has been in man concepts, and Quinnen Williams is a big part of defending those man concepts. He's no longer there. He is one of the best defensive tackles in the league. That is a huge gap. I think we see Quinshon Judkins get probably 20 rushing attempts as they kind of run the ball down the Jets' throat. And then I also like some Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor receptions as well, just because negative game script, Garrett Wilson in the slot. So I talked a lot there. Is there anything you want to cover on Browns versus Jets, buddy?
Honestly, not a lot. Really just overall high level with all the trades. I think probably the Jets are a little undervalued. If you made me give a lean, I'd lean the Jets plus 2.5. Not something I'm going to bet at all. I will not be bet into this game really whatsoever. Besides the Judkins call out, maybe I might bet into that. That's a good call out. I like that. I like that. I could see him getting 20 plus carries here as well. So that's good handicap on that. But besides that, I got nothing here.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it is interesting that the line is only 2.5, especially given how bad the Jets have been this year and losing so much talent on the defense side of the football, and also just generally having Justin Fields as your quarterback is a negative when you look at the grand scheme of things. We're going to move on to Jags versus Texans. CJ Stroud is not playing in this game. Travis Hunter is not playing in this game. There's a good chance Brian Thomas Jr. is not playing in this game. And also potentially Diami Brown is not playing in this game. And apparently Nick Chubb is also injured as well. So there are a lot of injuries to try to get around when handicapping this football game. There's a few leans I like, but wanted to get your thoughts first.
Yeah, so like you said, this is just everyone's banged up here. Division matchup. It'll probably be a little ugly. The Texans defense, though, is phenomenal. It's a great unit over there. I don't trust Trevor Lawrence to really pick them apart. Texans are getting 1.5 here. I don't want to back Davis Mills really at all, but if I'm going to back a backup quarterback, it's going to be in his first start. So there's a real chance I'm on the Texans plus 1.5. Nick Chubb did practice today as well.
Okay.
So I'd assume he's playing. He's still questionable. But yeah, I'm going to definitely look into the Texans plus 1.5. Currently, though, I got nothing on this game.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a lot of heavy coin here unless a Parker Washington line comes out super low or Jacoby Meyer line comes out super low. The rush defenses are both strong. And when you look at the Jags, like you're getting a timeshare running back on the Texan side, you're getting a timeshare running back, which is also something you generally want to stay away from unless you're looking at an under. I think one of the things I noticed in the last game was Davis Mills really throwing the ball to Nico Collins pretty much on repeat. And you see that with younger quarterbacks where they're going to find the number one guy and say, screw it. The best chance I have of getting a catch is let's go to number one. And that's Nico Collins. Had a ton of targets when Davis was in the game. I might look at that as a potential piece of a ladder. Otherwise, Parker Washington is someone I'm on. He generally puts up some big performances. So this is a lowest over-under of the week, 36.5.
And with that low over-under, one thing I might look into and encourage people to look into is teasing the Texans up to 7.5. You know, you get these key numbers of 1.5, 2.5, where you can tease teams up to 7, 8.5. It's what's called a long teaser. Those are great teaser legs. And vice versa. If a team's favored by 7.5, 8.5, you tease them down to 1 or 2.5. So, you know, you're getting teams to basically keep it close. And that's really what I see from this Jags-Texans game here. I don't see either team winning by over a touchdown, especially at 37.5. Teasing the Texans up to 7.5 is a really good bet.
I love that. Moving on to the Bills versus the Dolphins. We have the Bills on the road in Miami. They are favored by 9.5. The total is 49.5. Some interesting news with this one. James Cook has been out of practice. So if you do not have Ray Davis on your team and he's open in fantasy leagues, there is no reason to not run there and grab him, because he should be in line for a very big day if James Cook is out, kind of like we saw Kyle Monangai last week as well. This is kind of an interesting game. They've already played once, and in that game, I targeted Dalton Kincaid. It worked out well. Dalton Kincaid is in line for another good game here. The Dolphins allow a very low average at the target. They like to keep things in front of them. They like to keep things in the middle of the field. You're basically asking for Dalton Kincaid to have a big game here, especially when you look at how many targets they allow as well to inline receivers for the Dolphins. So that's probably my big play for this, outside of Ray Davis. If James Cook is out, if James Cook is in, I think his line is going to be a little too inflated. It's not something I'm going to want to target. And I have one other sneaky play here that I want to cover, but I'm going to give you a chance to go through your lanes real quick.
Yeah. So with this game, spread 9.5 seems spot on. I'll be honest. I don't really have a side I want to back here, especially without James Cook. Maybe if it gets down to 8.5, you go with the Bills. If it pops to 10.5, that'd be a Dolphins line. But yeah, no, like you said with James Cook, I've actually taken a different approach to that. I actually already have Ty Johnson anytime touchdown, and I paired that with Cortland Sutton, where I was looking all day today trying to find Ty Johnson, Ray Davis lines. I don't see anything up on any book for rushing yards lines for either of them. Personally, I think Ty Johnson would get the bulk of the carries, but yeah, Ray Davis is a phenomenal bet. Realistically, it's going to be a split share. That's what they always do. So nobody's going to end up with 20 carries between the two. But yeah, hoping for Ty Johnson, just goal line carry touchdown there, where the Bills, even if they don't have James Cook, they're still going to put up 28 points. I mean, their line is 30.5 for points. It's not something I'd bet into, but I mean, yeah, they're going to put up points in this game. So yeah, Ty Johnson, anytime touchdown at
I love it.
plus 320.
I love it, man. Yeah, I think one of the tough things about this kind of game is that the Bills could get out to a lead really early and then take the brakes, or basically put the brakes on the offense. And so you're going to struggle to hit that. On the Dolphin side, if they're down big, we've seen that passing attack just continue to suck even when they're down, even when they're throwing a lot. Tua looks like a shell of himself. So it just concerns me taking pretty much anything in this game, to be very honest. That's why with Kincaid, I'm looking at his receptions, but I'm probably going to look at a first quarter prop for him. And I'm also looking at a first quarter prop for Devon Achane, excuse me. This is actually a decent rushing matchup for the Dolphins. The problem is they might be down by 14 at the end of the first quarter, and I would like to get in on a 12.5 first quarter rushing yards for Achane in that first quarter. I think they're going to try to run the ball as much as possible, and then they'll have to open it up later. That might be a sneaky look for me in this game. All right. We've talked about the pre-show. I have not a lot to say here for this next game. We have the Patriots versus the Bucks. I'm going to quickly pull up the spread here. It is -2.5 Tampa Bay. In Tampa Bay, the total is 48.5. Honestly, this if I had to take anything here, I do feel like the under might be the approach here, because I think both these defenses are going to be very strong in how they defend. The rushing attacks are not going to get going. Both the Patriots, Tampa Bay possess really strong rush defenses. New England in general has a strong defense, and Tampa Bay's pass defense has come along as of late, although it depends on how high you are on Drake May and whether you think that's going to matter. So that's all I got for this. I'm not touching anything except for potentially rushing under. So go for it, Luke.
Yeah, you teed me up pretty perfectly here. I'll be on the Bucks -2.5. So this will be my second spread play of the week. Probably only have 3 locked in for the show, but yeah, -2.5 for 3.5 units is where I'm liking in this game. Tampa Bay, I just think they're a better team than New England. New England's, kind of coming into this new success now, and you have Drake May playing at an MVP level. He's played phenomenal. Great player. This ship's going to come crashing back down at some point, and I'm kind of calling my shot that it's this week against a tough Bucs squad who hopefully is getting Bucky Irving back. Baker's been my guy all year. I love backing Baker. He covers backdoor covers all the time. So if you're getting points with Baker, it's basically an auto bet for me. I'm backing Baker here as a favorite. Not my favorite thing to do. But yeah, I'm more than happy to fade this Patriots team.
I am a huge Baker fan, so you are in good company here. I absolutely love Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I mean, if there's anything, I think it's the Bucks here. Just if you look at across the board, pass offense, pass defense, rush offense, rush defense, Tampa Bay generally holds the advantage in most of those advanced metrics, or there is no advantage at all. So I honestly would like the Tampa Bay -2.5 and potentially even under, combine that together. So we'll see. I don't like taking spreads, but if I had to take anything there, that'd be probably my play. Ravens versus the Vikings. A couple of things to note here. Aaron Jones was out of practice yesterday, I believe, and potentially today, which could open things up for Jordan Mason. The Ravens are kind of getting back on track now with Lamar Jackson looking healthy. And then we have JJ McCarthy. And my approach so far this year has generally been to avoid any offensive player with JJ McCarthy at the quarterback spot for two reasons. First, he's not a very good thrower, so you struggle with hitting those props in general, but then also that causes them to get down. They open up the game script, they're getting a negative game script, and they're throwing the ball 20 times. And then you see some of those lines hit, and it's so hit or miss with what you're trying to play there. I don't like that uncertainty when trying to fade or ride on JJ McCarthy. The only thing I do like if I was to take something from a Vikings perspective is I kind of like Jalen Naylor receptions. His targets go up with JJ McCarthy. The slot spot is a good spot to target with the Ravens in general. They've allowed 67% of their slot receivers to hit their target. Again, a negative game script. The line being 1.5 is not high for Jalen Naylor to hit, especially with all the attention being on Justin Jefferson. So that's what I got. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking at the Vikings here, plus the 4.5. I have not fired on this at all, like Tampa Bay and the Broncos. This is kind of where I'm at with like the Texans as well. This is another one I'll look at as the week goes on. You know, we get into Sunday, lock things in. But I truly think this is a game the Vikings can win. It's a very winnable game for them. The Ravens are still banged up. And as much as everyone believes the Ravens are going to go on a tear, me included in that, you know, they're not the perfect team they've been in years past. I like the way Minnesota matches up with them. I think they could sneakily pull this one out or keep it close. It'll be a hard fought game, which is why getting 4.5 is super enticing to me. Yeah, I don't see any major advantages. I didn't know about the Aaron Jones news. So, I mean, if you're trying to get ahead of that, maybe look into playing Jordan Mason. But other than that, I have nothing.
I love it. Yeah, the only other thing I noticed was simply the fact that the Vikings do blitz a ton. It kind of creates a lot of short route opportunities. They're allowing the second most targets to inline receivers, which in theory would be Mark Andrews. Sam Laporta had 6 receptions. Aronde Gatson had 5. Bannon had 4. Njoku had 5. Fan had 5, and Pitts had 4. So all those tight ends have cleared their line. But I'll be honest, I was on Mark Andrews last week, and I can't get a feel for this tight end group for the Ravens between Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. They're essentially splitting snaps. Mark Andrews got a lot of the red zone targets, but it's a tough area to kind of cover. So just as an FYI, some opportunities there if you could figure out that tight end situation. Moving on to the Saints versus the Panthers, I have a play that I love. I was on, I think before I saw a lot of stuff on Coach Speak about it. I was on before I imagine what I see a lot of people on X on it as well. Devon Veal receptions. I'm already played his TD. I played his 2 TDs. I'm either going to look like a freaking brilliant genius here or a complete moron. I'm willing to take a risk here. So as a Broncos fan, I know Veal. He came from the Broncos. The Saints traded a 4th round pick for him, which honestly was stupid. If I'm being completely like that made no sense to trade a 4th round pick. But when you're the Broncos, you got to take him up on that. But they haven't gotten him involved at all in this year. So this spread right now, 5.5 Carolina. It is 39.5 over under. I do think there's a situation where we could see a negative game script for the Saints playing with Tyler Shaw. But nonetheless, without Rashid Shaheed, that is opportunities for Devon Veal. Or Devon Veal. I keep mentioning his name, but Devon Veal. Specifically, the coaches for the Saints have mentioned him multiple times and how they want to get him involved for the rest of the season. It makes sense given the capital investment they've put into him. It makes sense given the fact that his team is not very good. And they've mentioned multiple times about getting him targets in the red zone. I will absolutely die if we get a 1.5 receptions line for Devon Beal. I will be hammering everything and then probably crying on Sunday looking like an idiot. But I have already hit his touchdown, his 2 touchdowns. I am absolutely pumped here. That is my main thing I want to cover for this is Devon Beal. If nothing else is taken away from this, Devon Beal is my guy for this week. So Luke, take it away.
I love that. Great handicap. I'll join you on that. I'll take Veal. If we get him at a 1.5 reception line, I'll take it for a unit as well. Other than that, I think there's a mismatch in the trenches here. The Panthers have been a sneaky good team in the trenches, running the ball and on defense included. So I'll be looking at Dowdle rushing props. I could see him coming out very high, which will scare me off of this. But yeah, there's a mismatch in the trenches here. I don't believe in the Panthers as a team, though. I can't lay the 5.5, and I'm not backing Shuck either, so I got to pass on the spread. I'll join you with Veal, and I'll also potentially back Dowdle.
I love it, man. Yeah, I had Dowdle as well. I just think his line's going to come out way too high here. And I like Tet as well. I think that they're going to give him the ball a ton. It's just a matter of whether or not they do what they did against Green Bay and they kind of sit on the ball and literally run the clock down to the very last second every single time, which pretty much limited everyone's offensive production last week. I can see that being a little bit different because the Saints aren't as good of a team, but we could be seeing that as well. But I like Tet McMillan receiving yards as well in this. Jumping over to the Cardinals versus the Seahawks, we have Jacoby Brissett is the starter for now. For the long term, I don't know. I will tell you, offensive props are a lot better with Jacoby Brissett in the game. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been having a great time getting the ball from Jacoby Brissett. I am on Marvin Harrison Jr. receiving yards. This Saints defense is very strong. One of the things I saw is posted by Greg Olson, but the Saints do a really good job of not allowing like the offensive base personnel to dictate what they're doing defensively. And they're essentially forcing teams to try to run the ball against their nickel defense, which also allows them to kind of defend across the board. But I think if there was a weakness, because they've been very strong in the rush defense, if there was a weakness, it is their pass defense. And I say weakness in very loose quotations. I do not think this is a game the Cardinals will be winning. I think this is going to be an opportunity for them to throw the ball a lot. One of the things I noted here, hitches and crossers are particularly effective against the Seahawks D. And you're basically asking for Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. Both have strong yard per route runs against hitches and crossers. So I think that is my one play here. A lot to not like in this game, though, to be honest. And then also, if you try to figure out whatever the hell is going on in that Cardinals running back room, good luck with that.
Yeah. I'm going to take a look at the other side. I think there's another trench mismatch here with the Seahawks against the Cardinals. I'm going to back Kenneth Walker over 54.5 rushing yards for a unit and a half. I think they're going to pound the rock. They're going to control this game. And the Seahawks should come out of here well-handed with a victory. Looking at laying the 6.5, probably not something I'm going to do. But yeah, I believe in this Seahawks team. I think they're a good team. The Cardinals are a mess. They're a mess. Like you said, who knows what's going on there? I don't know the running back room. I escaped last week getting Jacoby Brissett under pass attempts at 35.5. I want to say he ended with 34, and I'm like, that was tight. So that's genuinely a bet I shouldn't have hit. So I'm staying off this Cardinal team. I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah. This actually, I just realized this was the game that kind of it all spiraled for me. I had Trey McBride at 5, 6, and 7 receptions, and it would have been a fantastic ladder to hit. Or not Trey McBride, sorry, Trey Benson. And we have one more drive. The Cardinals need to drive down the field. It is the perfect opportunity to hit a lot of running backs on just quick dump offs. And Trey Benson got injured. We see Amari DeMarcado get 3 receptions on that final drive, including a touchdown. And everyone in fantasy world was very pissed off about the Trey Benson play. So I don't know. I don't have anything to say about that other than I'm just very upset now. I'm thinking about that. Jumping into the Lions versus the Commanders, I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to kick this over to you after I go through the spread real quick. 8.5 Detroit, minus 8.5. That feels like they want us to take the Commanders here. Like that is really freaking high. And then 49.5 over under. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it does feel like they want you to take the Commanders because I can almost guarantee you the most bet team this week is going to be Detroit minus 8.5. Coming off a loss, they're 12-0 against the spread. Personally, I'm not going to take it. I think the Commanders can put up a real fight against this Lions team, and I'll probably look like an idiot when the Lions win 42-10 because that's what they do. They blow teams out. This is a Lions spot if I've ever seen one. Going into this game, it feels like a David Montgomery game where they take the lead and really take control of it. So that's a prop I'll be looking at is David Montgomery rushing yards. Yeah, but other than that, I can't bring myself to back this Lions team, even though every trend, everything that I know betting wise is telling me it's a Lions spot.
Yeah, 100%. When I'm pulling up my team cheats, like every single advantage is either Lions or neutral
Yep.
across the board, offense, defense, etc. The things I'm looking at here, to your point, I don't mind Gibbs here, but he's not very strong in the areas where the Commanders are very weak at, which is generally going to be outside zone runs. He's averaging just 3.18 yards per carry in outside zone concepts. That is where the Commanders have been hit the hardest. So I'm not really sure I like that. To your point, I think this is a David Montgomery area as well. If they get a big lead, we're going to see some heavy David Montgomery rushing attempts, trying to keep Jahmyr Gibbs fresh. What I actually like here is Deebo Samuel receptions. The Lions have struggled against the slot a little bit. They're allowing the 11th most targets against this specific coverage schemes. I do like Deebo here. I also like it's either going to be Chris Moore or Jalen Lane here, and I keep picking wrong on each of those. But with Luke McCaffrey out, we saw Chris Moore get a lot of those deep shots. Jalen Lane, though, got 5 targets. He is a younger guy. Terry McLaurin is not back either, so someone's got to get those targets. I'm probably going to go the route of Jalen Lane. But with the way I've been playing things, it's going to be Jalen Lane last week when I bet Chris Moore. It's going to be Chris Moore this week, but I like one of those wide line receivers as well.
Yeah.
Jump. Any thoughts on that?
No, go ahead.
Cool. Jumping over to Rams versus 49ers, we have 2 more games in the Sunday slate to wrap up. Rams versus 49ers, the last time these two teams played, the 49ers were essentially a walking hospital and managed to beat the Rams. We have a Rams team at minus 4.5 coming into this game. And the 49ers, honestly, aren't that much healthier. Ricky Pearsall theoretically is starting to get healthier, but knowing how they play injuries, I don't think he'll be back in the game for this game. We still don't know about Brock Purdy. Mac Jones has been banged up all season. This has been a very tough 49ers team to kind of to work around. You don't know what team's going to show up. I honestly don't have any plays that I particularly love here, other than maybe like a Blake Corum rushing yards. I saw it got set at 30.5. If you think the Rams are going to be playing with the lead, I don't think Blake Corum rushing yards is a bad play. But what you could see is last time they played, he fumbled twice, he got benched, and that was clearly a bad play at that point. And then Christian McCaffrey got absolutely stuffed by the Rams D, but did a pretty good job in the receiving game. But we have George Kittle back for this game as well. So that is also a big difference maker when you look at a rushing attack, when you look at a passing attack that impacts Christian McCaffrey's running positively, impacts his receiving negatively. Christian McCaffrey only averaging 6.5 targets per game the last couple games with Kittle and Jennings back, as opposed to 8.9 prior to that. So I don't have any other really thoughts. That's kind of where I'm at right now with the Rams for 49ers.
Yeah, it's a tricky game because I'll be honest, you could genuinely talk me into betting either side of this game. I see how the Rams just take control, blow them out, and I see how the Niners win outright. One of the most infuriating bets I made this season was laying the 8.5 with the Rams on that Thursday night game, and they lost outright. And it's infuriating because to me, I'd make the bet again, I'm like, what did I miss? And I feel like I'm missing the same thing here, which it probably keeps me off this game. If I look into anything, to your point with Corum, it'd be Kyron Williams rushing yards. I think it's a tighter game. They trust Kyron a little more. I could see him getting 20 carries. If his rush yards line's around 70.5, that feels pretty good. Feels good for him to go over if he gets the volume. So that's where I'd lean here. This is a tough game to handicap.
100% agree. Not much more to say on that. And then we got the Sunday night football game. We have the Steelers versus the Chargers. There are two plays I absolutely love here, and one play that scares the heck out of me. I'll let you start it off, and then I'll see if you're on any of the things that I'm on for this game.
Yeah, I'll start it off. And if this pops anywhere, take it immediately. I'll make this my third spread play. The Steelers plus 3.5 for 3.5 units. The Chargers have no one to protect Herbert. It's going to be TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Herbig just having a party at the quarterback. And that's really what I envision here is them getting in there. But conversely, what's going to kill us is Herbert could absolutely slice this secondary apart. The Steelers secondary has not performed to expectation for me at all this season. And if Herbert gets time back there, he could pick them apart. So I do love the Steelers plus the 3.5, but make sure you get the plus 3.5. You need that hook for that game-winning field goal by the Chargers potentially. If that pops 3.5, fire on it instantly. Anything else I like in the game? Potentially Jalen Warren, because I could see them wanting to keep Herbert off the field, play some ball control. Jalen Warren rushing props could speak to me there. But yeah, good spot for the Steelers and what's essentially going to be a home game in LA.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just pulled up my team sheets. The Steelers rank top 15 in pressure rate, sack rate, blitz rate. The Chargers rank bottom 10 in pressure rate allowed, sack rate allowed, blitz rate. To your point, this could be bad. And this also kind of explains I was high on Kimani Vidal last week in rushing yards, and he basically got bottled up. And what I need to begin factoring into my rushing seats as well is the offensive line. And they have no ability to generate anything for him. He is ranked as my third best matchup this week. But again, that doesn't factor in the offensive production, is purely looking at what can the Steelers do against rushing attacks, and they've been generally weak, although they bottled up Jonathan Taylor last week. So I'm staying away from that. That is my stay away from PTSD pick. My two picks, though, I love Quentin Johnson this week. He has had a few down weeks. He had 1 week where he didn't have a single target despite running 80% route share, basically just doing cardio out there. He has been a tough one to read, but man coverage is where Quentin Johnson thrives in. The Steelers play the sixth most man. They play the third most one high looks. They're allowing a ton of targets to wide aligned receivers. And Quentin Johnson, when facing man coverage, averages 2.18 yards per route run compared to his average of 1.57, which includes man coverage in there. So we're looking at 2.18 to about 1.12 or so in zone. I love Quentin Johnson here. I got a 40.5 receiving yard line. And then I also oddly like DK Metcalf. I think with what the Steelers are doing, they have done a really great job of playing to their strengths, which is not throwing the ball to the receivers. It is utilizing your offensive lineman as a tight end in Darnell Washington, utilizing two slightly more slot-esque tight ends in Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. But I do like DK Metcalf here with the emergence of Roman Wilson, with Calvin Austin being back. DK Metcalf does well against zone. He's averaging 2.8 yards per route run against zone compared to 0.77 yards per route run versus man. They play a lot of too high looks, and they've allowed the eighth most targets to wide aligned receivers. So I'm really on both those guys. And if things are going well going into that game, I'm 100% laddering both them together to see if we can make a banger. So that's the one thing I'm on. Any thoughts before we close it out?
Yeah, so I guess I'll expose myself on this. I'm a huge Steeler fan, so watch every Steeler snap every week.
All right.
Big Steeler guy, so I guess I do have a little bit of bias taking the plus 3.5, but I do genuinely think there's a chance we win this game here. But yes, I love the Quentin Johnston play. I'll probably join you on that because for the sheer reason he will probably catch a 40-yard pass in this game. So I'll look at his over/under in longest reception even. I'll join you on Quentin Johnston. I'll mark myself down for that later. But yes, Quentin Johnston's a great play against this secondary where if they get the time to take the deep shot, that's the guy who's going to convert it. And it's very convertible against this secondary.
100%. You'll love this then. I have a Troy Polamalu authentic Mitchell Ness jersey in my office right now. Awesome. It is not mine. One of my best friends is a huge Steelers fan, and I have a hookup for some good Mitchell and Ness affordable jerseys. So to put it that way.
Awesome.
But I have a Troy Polamalu jersey still in my office.
Great,
I'll be honest,
great jersey.
I have not capped the Monday game. I usually my process is Tuesday I do all my data gathering. I begin kind of my initial analysis. Wednesday I wrap everything up. Thursday I just sit there and look at my life thinking, holy cow, what the heck happened the last 2 days, and try to look at my betting. And then on Saturday I start looking at Monday's game. I just it's a lot to kind of hit all together. So I've not targeted Monday's game. Do you have any leans real quick before we close out the show on Monday?
Yeah. I guess I've started looking at the Monday game. I think it's a Packers spot coming off an embarrassing loss. I got to lean to the Packers. Real chance that this is a spread I take. If you're only laying 1.5, hard for me to see the Packers dropping 2 in a row in Lambeau. I know it's a tough Eagles team coming in, and everyone's going to want to back the Eagles here because the Packers genuinely look awful recently, but they play up and down to their competition. So that's why I'm thinking we're going to get a motivated, ready to go Packers team in this game.
I love it. That is a good call on that. That is it. That was all we have, though. So you can find all of our plays in the Parlay Olay Bets Discord. We have a free link if you want to catch just the free plays, or you can use code NFL, get 50% off your first month, get all of Luke's plays, get all of my plays. Plus, you get Will's plays, who absolutely crushes in college props. You got Ryan crushing soccer, and you got Logan doing money lines and spreads as well across the gamut of games. We have it all in Parlay Olay Bets. And we'll be here. The goal is to come back every single week doing a quick NFL breakdown. And we'll see what else we can provide for you for content. But if you like this, let us know. If you don't, let us know why not. And we'll be back next Thursday. All right, Luke, we're tuning out now.
All right. Good one.